Hello and welcome to Greg's Channel 1. I am Greg and this is Channel 1. Now this is the Orange Tuesday, an anime review. Now this is the 6th episode, known as Letter 6. Now before we start, I want to apologise due to my unfortunate lack of videos upon the correct kind of schedule, but due to my own ill health and technological issues, I've been unable to get stuff out as regularly as I had intended. Now, hopefully, due to my health improving and due to getting some slight technical issues sorted out, hopefully I can get things out more regularly. Now that I've got that out of the way, let's begin with my review for Orange Letter 6, Episode 6, an anime review. Now, I've decided to try and be as professional as possible, and I'm trying my best to be as professional and to the point, and as direct about as much of the episode as I can. So, let's dive in. This episode starts right at the start, where it kind of starts following on from the previous episode. So you have Naho and Kaoru at the pool, where they are talking about going and watching the fireworks together. Now this is quite a nice little scene, however it highlights how dense Naho is. And I will come back to how dense our main female lead actually is. She's probably one of the most dense characters I think I've ever really encountered. And I've watched a lot of different shows where there are relatively dense characters. So, not Naho being as dense as she is quite dense on the fact that it's obvious that Kaoru is interested in her, but Kaoru being Kaoru, he doesn't just come out and say, Naho, I like you. Much like she doesn't come out and say, Kaoru, I like you, etc. Now, Suwa, as usual, is, I feel very sad for Suwa because he is clearly, friend-zoned. However, he seems to be okay with it, which I think is quite sweet. The fact that, he's okay with being in the friend zone and being on the outside. I think he kind of likes being the older brother, the wise sage as such. As he says to Kaoru in this episode quite early on, that I'm going to paraphrase as I cannot remember the exact quote, but if you don't risk things, nothing will ever change. If you are not willing to try and change things, things will always end up a certain way. So, the wise sage Suwa, he is, he's very much like a big brother to everybody. And he's kind of looking out for everyone, trying to make everyone feel good. And this will come in handy a little later in the episode. As with this particular segment, Kaoru is saying about how, he's not sure he's interested in anybody, and he doesn't want to regret hurting anybody. To which Suwa says to him, as I paraphrased, that if he doesn't take the risk and at least says how he feels, he'll never know whether he'll regret it or not. And that there's nothing to regret if you go out and you give it a go. However, if you keep it all bottled in, you're going to regret not saying it. This links in with the Naho density a couple of minutes beforehand. A couple of seconds or so, where Naho and Kaoru are having a simple conversation about Kaoru pretty much says, out of him, Hagita, and Suwa, who would Naho like to ask her out? And she kind of says, oh, I don't want to say, what about you? Out of me, Azusa, and Chino, who would you like to ask you out? And he said, I'm not saying. Which is it's very, very cute, and I quite liked the fact that it was a nice little cute segment. And then then we get Kaoru being depressing as hell. It takes him 1 minute to be depressing. He goes from, oh, happy, happy, happy to, oh, everything's sad. It's just, and you are just thinking to yourself, Christ, mate, you have to try and find a way to be happy. You know, you have all of your friends around you doing everything they can to try and make you feel good, and at any opportunity you're being depressed. Now, obviously, I know that depression acts in many, many different ways, and I'm not trying to say that depression should be something where you can switch it on or off. However, it is just how quickly the character himself goes from happy one moment, depressing the next. Chino shows a nice little bit of character when they're talking about Ueda being called Miss Azila. Yeah, it's almost like a beauty contest kind of thing. And, you know, Ueda then gets a little moment with her little girls, and it seems that she's planning to ruin an Aho Kaoru moment at the fireworks, as I said at the start of the episode. And then we get a Mr. Last Place, which is a contest, I guess they choose for the guy that they think is the least attractive. Is likely to get no votes. However, it's Hagita, but he gets 1 vote. And it's a great comedy moment there, where Hagita's annoyed at the fact he got 1 vote. And he comes out and he says, which one of you idiots voted for me? I wanted a dead 0. Azusa plays up that it was her, ha 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 ha. And it seems to be an Azusa Hagita couple. And they make Suwa makes a crack of, why don't they just get together already? And it feels almost like those two should be a couple by now. So it then goes into why Sage Suwa again, because he's just highlighting that he is the best person in the group. He is the person who is willing to put everything on the line and let other people be happy. Even if that means that he can't have necessarily what he wants, but he knows that he'll be happy if his friends are happy, which makes him the best kind of character and the best kind of person. You then get a really, really intense scene where Ueda-senpai, that she goes out of her way to try and ruin Naho and Kakeru's chance by making Naho work for her, because Naho doesn't trust her with showing the little hairpin, expecting the hairpin to be taken off her by Ueda, and Ida to pretty much go off and try and steal Naho's man, Kakeru. And that's when we get an amazing moment where the group come together to try and save Naho and Kakeru's moment with the fireworks. You have Hagita and Suwa directing Ueda-senpai somewhere else. You have the Chino and Azusa showing up and taking the busy stuff, the packages that Naho has, and says, Naho, go meet Kakeru, we'll deal with this. Which is great. It's really great that, you've got such a nice group of characters that all fit into the group. And that is something I really, really like about this show. The show seems like we're about halfway, and it seems like the show is only going to get better from here on in. At least that's what I'm hoping. We get a strangely beautiful moment where there's a kind of confession of love from both Kakeru and Naho, without them saying, I love you. And it is probably one of the most sweetest moments you can get. You get a holding hand scene, which is done absolutely beautifully, where Kakeru, being pretty awkward as he is, he takes her hand, because he'd bandaged her hand with plasters the previous episode, if I remember rightly, and he says that holding Naho's hand feels different. and then they're looking at the fireworks because they thought that they'd missed their chance for the fireworks, and more fireworks get set off as they're holding hands, and it's just done perfectly. I don't think they could have done this scene any better. We then get a little more from Letter Naho, where it seems like it's putting pressure on our main character Naho, saying that Kaoru felt regret for not stopping his mother's suicide, and that he took his own life so he could apologize to his mother in heaven, which is kind of strange but kind of beautiful in the same way. Now, I'm not saying that suicide's a beautiful thing, but it was the sentiment behind it. Now, obviously, that's not right, and that's something that Naho has been tasked to try and fix. A question that I think is an interesting one is, should Naho have read ahead or not? Let me know what you think. We get some nice, beautiful transitions from current day to future to back to current day. Not enough from that Naho's group, but yet I want to see more. Now, Naho density level goes up to 500 at least, where there is a moment where Kaoru says, "I'm in love with her. I'm no longer interested in this girl. I'm in love with her." And Naho can't work out that he's talking about her, which just annoys me. Naho's gone from a character I really liked at the start to a character that just makes me want to slap her and say, "Come on, girl. Why can't you see that he wants you, you daft woman?" So hopefully they sort this out in the next couple of episodes or so. The group make Kaoru quite fun with a date kind of thing, where they get all these nice image transitions, where the rest of the group say, "Oh, we're going to be late." So Kaoru and Naho go off and enjoy the day together as a date. It was brilliant. I loved the way that was done. And then you get a heartbreaking scene where Naho is trying to get Kaoru to tell her what he said at the shrine, and he won't answer. And then she makes him cry by saying something that she'd read from the letter: "Do you regret not saving your mother?" And he cries. We then find out a bit of a backstory on his mother's suicide, that she'd been dealing with issues, she'd always had health problems, and then her psyche kind of struggled to deal with that, and then eventually that crumbled and she took her own life. So the episode has gone with a complete 180, from happy at the start, depressing at the end, and then we get the shocker, the ending. Suwa shows up. Naho's struggling to cope with the fact that she feels like she's pushing Kaoru closer to suicide. And then Suwa says, "So you got a letter too then?" The end. I rate this episode as a 4.8 out of 5 because goddamn was this a good episode. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this review. Click a like, thumbs up, subscribe if you want to hear more of me talking about Orange. Have a nice day, guys. You can leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Hopefully I'm going to be able to start getting stuff out a bit more regularly now. And stay tuned. Good night.